Hello, everybody, and welcome to another iconic episode of A Good Lawyer podcast, part of the EIL network, Excellence in Lawyering. I am Esteban Stephen Garcia, your non lawyer, coast to coast opinion host. And this is where I delve into the captivating world of brilliant legal minds, such as with our guest today, in hopes of enriching yours. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a great one for you today. Texas's criminal and personal injury lawyer, 20 plus years of experience, Harris County's finest, and also licensed in federal court. Trust him with your freedom, and ladies and gentlemen, trust him when you've been injured. So please join me in welcoming to the podcast Juan L. Jr. Juan, welcome to A Good Lawyer.
Thanks for having me here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, the pleasure is all ours. So please tell folks and myself where you're from and what got you steered in the direction of law.
Well, that's an interesting story. So I was born in a very small town in South Texas, Roma, Texas. It's in Starr County.
Mhm.
Um, my parents are actually from across the border in Tamaulipas, from two little small cities, Los Guerras, Tamaulipas, and Guardao de Abajo, Tamaulipas. But I was born in Roma on the U.S. Mexico border. And I've told this story just recently about why I decided to be an attorney. So I was born down in South Texas, like I stated, but lived most of my life in Houston. However, we still had significant family, grandparents, great grandparents, as a matter of fact, down in Starr County in that area. So we would travel frequently to and from Starr County, the border, back and forth to Houston. We spent most of our summers down. It was our summer camp. My parents had a small ranch in Camargo, Tamaulipas, and we would spend. That was our summer camp, right? Small little ranch, no AC, no electricity. We turned on a generator at night, and that's how we got through the night. But because of that, again, we would travel back and forth, and on a specific day that we were traveling, it was myself. I don't. I believe I was 12 or 13. My father, my uncle, half brother of my dad, so he's a little younger, and then my younger brother. I have there's five boys that I grew up with, so there's five of us growing up. But one of my youngest brother was with us. I believe he was like 7 or 8 at the time. And if anybody's ever traveled down south and then back to San Antonio or Houston or whatever city it is, you have to cross through a checkpoint, right? Falfurrias has one. I believe Raymondville has one. There's checkpoint. Laredo has one. So on this specific date, us four were traveling from Starr County back to Houston, and we got to the checkpoint, asked the pertinent questions. Everybody U.S. citizens? Yes, all of us are U.S. citizens. And they had a dog running around the car. And purportedly, the dog alerted to something in the car. So they took us from the initial contact area to a secondary, is what they call it, right? And they continue with the dog. They continue searching the car. And obviously, there's nothing in the car, right? It's just four of us traveling back home. But we were berated by a border patrol agent, or several border patrol agents, berated, screaming and yelling at my father, my uncle, because my uncle was calling, "Where are the drugs? Where are the drugs?" And we're like, "We don't have any drugs, right?" And this is what really infuriated me, right?
Mhm.
Um, they came at my little brother, who was 7 or 8, and literally got in his face, and we're screaming at him, "Where's your ID? Where's your ID? Where's your ID?" I'm like, "Guy, he's 12, he's 8. There's his father. Why are you screaming at him like that?" So that experience, um, that experience told me that I needed to put myself in a place where I can help people that can't help themselves. I never wanted to feel that way again, and I didn't want anybody else to feel that way again. So that was my motivation to go into to law. Um, and I carry it still today. I practice law with a chip on my shoulder because of that. Because I just that feeling, right? That feeling, it never goes away, right? So, when I get clients that have similar experiences, I understand it. I feel it. I've been there before, right? So that was my motivation to go to law school, and I've been practicing law for over 20 years, and I love every bit of it. The only other thing that I would rather do was being a professional baseball player, but I was too slow, couldn't hit, and couldn't throw. So that wasn't going to happen.
When you were talking about the counties like Papudias and Raymondville and all that, I for a brief time I was living in Corpus Christi, so I was traveling a lot through those areas. So yeah, I definitely remember those small towns, especially growing up. My grandmother was from a small little town called Asherton, Texas. Uh, Real small town.
Where's Asherton at? I've never heard of Asherton.
That is in Dimmitt County, kind of by Carrizo Springs,
Okay. Okay.
in that neighborhood.
Got it. Got it. Got it. I'll tell you a quick little story. During COVID, I had a case in Pecos. It's a federal case in Pecos.
Mhm.
They did not slow down for COVID. We had to go to court every 30 days. We had to make appearances in person, no mask. I mean, that was the only case that kept going during COVID, like live hearings. They were not concerned about COVID whatsoever down there.
What's that one question that a lot of your clients that come to you, obviously in their time of need, you've been through a lot, you've seen a lot, you've experienced a lot, but what's that one question that you wish your clients would ask you but never ever ask?
Well, that's an excellent question. That's an excellent question. I tried to be as thorough as possible because you know, and I'm going to be very, very honest with you. A lot of the people that I represent, and I tell them this, right? They're good people. They just made a terrible mistake, right?
Sure.
Um, and what I tell them is, it is my job and it's my responsibility to make sure you don't get judged on the worst day of your life. Because this is literally the worst day of their life, the worst decision that they've ever made. So I try to be as thorough as possible about the process. Um, the process differs from state court to federal court, from county to county in Texas. It differs as far as the process logistically. But I try to be as thorough as possible with them. But what I find is that oftentimes, and this is just human nature, right?
Mhm.
It takes me a little bit. It takes me a while to get the entire facts of the case, right? Um, Initially, they try to mitigate, downplay their role and responsibility, right? Thinking that that's going to be helpful. Um, for example, handles significant conspiracies, drug cases in federal court. Instead of telling me, being honest with me up front, hey, I've done this 10 times. I've only done it once. This is my first time. I said, okay. Well, then we get through discovery. We start going with discovery, and there's wire intercepts. There's cooperators that say otherwise. I mean, I met this guy years ago. We've done this, X amount of times, 10 times a week or 5 times a week, whatever it is. But I find that, and you know, in my opinion, it's somewhat of a cultural thing. Most of my clients are Hispanics.
Mhm.
And I think culturally they're just fearful, right? Fearful of actually telling me the entire facts of the case, right? So and that's okay. I get through it. I get through it, and I sort it out. But that's what I oftentimes find, that downplaying, mitigating, downplaying their role in whatever they're accused of or charged with.
And a lot of folks, I feel, as coming from a layperson, but just from what I've heard, just never lie to your lawyer, because that's interrupting the game plan. That's interrupting time he could be, or she, helping you come up with a defense for your case on the worst day of your life. So yeah, I think a lot of folks have that mindset that either the lawyers are part of the law enforcement process or they're downplaying everything they've done. So yeah,
Yeah, when I, try to get through them, when I know they're downplaying after me reading Discovery, going through Discovery, what I say to them is, say, look, if we're in the middle of a trial or in the middle of a hearing and something comes out that I didn't know because you didn't tell me, the only person that's going to get hurt is you. I get to go home, right?
yeah.
So just be honest with me, and that way I can make an accurate assessment as to what is your best defense. How do we go about, defending this case?
And you mentioned you not it's not only criminal or federal cases, you also handle personal injury cases as well, correct?
We do. We handle personal injury cases. Again, personal injury cases are just state cases. We don't handle anything in federal court at this point.
Whether it's a catastrophic injury case or a serious federal crimes case, when the strategy that you're trying to go with kind of just takes a back seat, doesn't it? Your experience kicks in. Tell us a little bit about an experience like that.
Well, so obviously, whether it's a criminal case or a personal injury case, the facts dictate the case, right? They dictate the case. On the personal injury side, sometimes what we have to deal with is, insurance companies denying liability. So we have to go. We have to, investigate our own set of facts because on personal injury cases, and look, I'm a big law enforcement guy. I those guys. I tell them all the time. I appreciate your hard work. You increase my client pool, right? Whether it's on a criminal case or a PI case, but sometimes they make mistakes. Sometimes they don't. They don't assess the accident appropriately and put somebody at fault that's not at fault, and vice versa. So sometimes we have to deal with those kind of situations and make our own assessment, do our own investigation, pull our own cameras. Um, so that's when instincts take in, right?
Mhm.
Because you know coming from a criminal background, right? Uh,
Mhm.
if I if I dictated how I represent a case or how I handle a case just based on the offense report written by a police officer, well, guess what? Everybody would be convicted. Everybody would go to prison, right? Because that's the way those reports are written, right? So we've got to instinctively make sure that everything in that report is accurate and conduct our own investigation, whether it's a criminal case or personal injury case.
That segues me into my next question. And I have always, it's so mind boggling when it happens, but I've got so many emails for people who have been involved in personal injury accidents, but yet they're telling me that the law enforcement officer, police officer, sheriff guy, what have you, issued them a ticket. Now they're badly injured, these folks. And at the end of all that, then they're handed this citation saying that they're 100% or even partially responsible for this. I, my question to you is, should folks still contact you even though they received that citation?
Absolutely. Always consult with an attorney, right? But for that very specific reason, sometimes officers get it wrong. And I'll give you an example of a case that we're working on now. It
Uh-huh.
happened. It happened in a construction site, right? The city of Houston here. We just finished the World Cup, FIFA. It was in a construction site that a private construction company was working on, right? However, at that specific time, they didn't have anybody handling traffic, right? There's nobody dictating the traffic.
Mhm.
So our client goes to the construction site thinking she's got the right of way. Well, guess what? She didn't because there was nobody there dictating the traffic, and she got into a terrible accident. And the officer put both of them at fault, right? Well, that's not the case, right? Maybe the other vehicle is not at fault, right? But the construction company holds liability there, right?
Mhm.
They're
Mhm.
liable for that accident because they weren't. They weren't conducting their project accordingly, right? So yeah, there are things like that happen all the time. I strongly advise to go talk to an attorney after an accident, even if initially you're rendered at fault.
And like you said earlier, most of my family are law enforcement officers and officials. I know these fine young men and women are out there doing their best every day protecting us, right? Even while we're asleep. But also, isn't it true that the accounts that they're giving on report is hearsay because they're relying on other people's, I guess, opinions, right, on how things transpired?
Well, hearsay is a legal term. Is a legal term. What these officers do is they dictate their reports based on witness statements, right?
Okay.
That per se, that per se is that would be hearsay in a court of law. But the way they write their reports is they interview fact witnesses, the any witnesses that are involved in the case, that interview them, and
Hmm.
they put the report together based on that. But I mean, on personal injury cases, sometimes there's a witness that has to go, leaves a phone number, then comes and that he doesn't get interviewed, and that could determine whether or not somebody's at fault or not.
Hmm.
Happens a lot, but what the officers do again is they interview all the pertinent witness that they're aware of, and they generate their report based on that information.
And when you have a client come in to see you, uh, and they've seen all the billboards, 50 million here, 100 million there, is their expectation on their case outrageous sometimes?
Well, I'll tell you the fall. That's a good question. Again, as we stated before, I handle both criminal and personal injury cases, and I
Yeah.
will tell you unequivocally, without a doubt, my most problematic clients are on the personal injury side. Whenever there's money involved, uh, they become hypersensitive. They want to know when the check is coming in, how long it's going to take. On the other hand, some of my criminal defense clients, I mean, I have guys that are charged with murder that don't call me until we get to court, right? Generally speaking, personal injury clients are more um, needy. Just whenever there's money involved, everybody wants to get updates every week, every day. When is it's an interesting scenario, but yes, it's the personal injury clients that are generally speaking much more needy and demand more attention.
I think too that a lot of them lose sight of the fact that they should be grateful that you're not speaking with their estate at this point to get that kind of money, and they're not in a wheelchair or physically challenged because they see those numbers, and I think there's some kind of uh, guess separation of reality there, where they don't understand that there's a lot that has gone on to get that figure, and thank God you don't have those circumstances in your case.
Yeah, and a good friend of mine, I'm going to steal this from him, but I'm going to give him credit. His name is David Salazar. He's a good friend of mine. He's a great personal injury attorney.
Uh-huh.
He has a podcast as well. But he says something that is very profound, right? You don't want $1 million case. You don't want to be involved in $1 million case as a plaintiff. Why? Because that means you're significantly hurt. You're maybe in a wheelchair, therapy sessions after therapy sessions, surgeries after surgeries, and it's very true, right? Those kind of cases mean that there's traumatic injuries, possible deaths. So yeah, to your point, you're exactly right.
And if you could pull every Houstonian or Texan for that matter, what's that one legal lesson that you would actually try to instill in them that could possibly change the way they think, the way they do things in the future, things that would probably make their daily lives better? What's that one thing you wish you could leave with every Houstonian or Texan for that matter?
Well, what I find, especially on the criminal defense side, is that some some of my clients believe that they can talk their way out of a situation. And the truth of the matter, you can't, right? Law enforcement is there to um, acquire the facts, right? But if there is a criminal matter, they're there to find details and facts that will help incriminate you. And people don't understand that, or just perhaps think that they may be smarter than law enforcement, and they're sometimes they talk their way into a um, a charge, as opposed to. And we do a lot of content here on that specific issue.
Mhm.
um, don't talk to law enforcement. Come talk to me first. Um, what I suggest to my clients is, look, if you're approached by law enforcement or you encounter law enforcement and they want to take a statement from you, be extremely respectful, extremely polite. Take their phone number and their name. Come see me. We'll talk it through, and then if de- we'll make a statement at the appropriate time. Um, so that's what I would advise all Texans is, if you're involved in some kind of situation that potentially could lead to criminal charges, talk to a lawyer first before you talk to law enforcement. And law enforcement, again, I am a big law enforcement guy, but
Yeah. Mhm.
they are legally allowed to mislead you. Right?
Yes.
And mislead you is a very nice and kind word, right?
Yeah.
In order to get you to talk to them, to trust them, and it oftentimes leads to incriminating information. So, we all need to be aware of that.
Yeah. They go to Liars College, and I thought that was a joke, but they
I don't,
actually do.
I'm not in the business of calling anybody a liar, but that's exactly right.
So, what's changed since you started this journey of yours, becoming just a super lawyer? What's changed now, in your opinion, to July 30th today, 2026?
Technology, technology. I mean, and I'm gonna give you an example of why I say that. Um, I handled a case, and it was a federal case in Oklahoma, Muskogee, Oklahoma. All right. My client was from was is from Houston, right? But at the time she was working in Arkansas. Her and her fiance had a meeting, an immigration meeting in Dallas the following day. So they leave after work, they leave Arkansas, drive through Oklahoma, through Indian country. It's the middle of the night, 2:30 in the morning or so. Desolate, very not a very well lit populated area.
Mhm.
And she's driving in the middle of the night, and something hits her windshield, right? So she thinks it's somebody's throwing a rock and trying to rob them. So she continues going, right? She goes with a broken windshield. She gets to Dallas, gets it fixed, gets it changed. Well, um, law enforcement at the time, well, not at the time, they're still doing them. Well, they're not doing them as much anymore. What they issued was, we call it a geofence Google warrant. So law enforcement goes to Google and says, hey, I want you to give me all Google users' information that were in this location at this specific time, right? What that leads to is, what has led to, based on the work that we did on this case, we discovered that 600 million Google users, your phone probably got searched. 600 million users were searched to find the people or the users that were in that specific area at that specific time. That's what we call
Wow.
that's what we call a general warrant. It's highly illegal. And so obviously she was one of the ones. She was one of four that was in that area, because it's a very non-populated area. And because of that, first warrant, they got into her phone. They issued a second warrant and got into her phone. And saw the pictures of the broken windshield and things of that nature, and then approached her, and she gave a statement. Yes, I was there. Well, we litigated that issue, the geofence Google warrant, that it was an unlawful, unconstitutional warrant. And on that case, it was the first case in the country that we won outright. Um, there was other cases out there that the judges said, yes, it's an unconstitutional warrant. However, there was a good faith exception in federal court that allows law enforcement to continue acting because they're acting in good faith. A judge signed this warrant, therefore, we're entitled to get that information. Well, in our case, it was significantly different, right? And I handled this case with four two lawyers that are the top Fourth Amendment lawyers in the country. So they did all the technical stuff, right? And what I handled was the specific witness who wrote the warrant,
Mhm.
right? And in that warrant, he had 19 paragraphs where he says my training and experience as to each specific issue that he was investigating. Well, when he got on the stand and I asked him specifics as to his training and experience was simply talking to a guy one time over a phone call. So
Wow.
yeah, that threw out the good faith exception. So that's why we won that case. The first case that was completely won um, in the country, and I'm not sure there's another case that's been won that way per date.
I've never heard of such a thing. And that's, I mean, just on the surface, that's troublesome and scary.
When I read that, when I read that, I said to myself, "This is the scariest thing I've ever read. This is scary." And I told my staff, and I told everybody, this case may go to the Supreme Court because we're going to litigate this issue, and we're going to take it all the way up to the Supreme Court. But after we won it, the government decided because they knew they weren't going to win. They
Mhm.
decided not to appeal it, and to let it go, and to let the opinion just rest as it was.
I think for them, you know, aside from it just being the right thing to do to let it go, but I think it would force them, I guess, during discovery, uh, it would force them to open up a lot more than what they want to let out.
Yeah. So maybe I didn't specify in that case what it wasn't a rock that hit her. It was a Cherokee Nation member who was riding her bike across the street. So that's who hit her, and she passed away. So it was a significant case, right? That's why they issued that warrant. It was an important case because there was a fatality.
Oh, because there was a fatality. Okay, I got you. But
The
in her mind, she thought it was
She
just
thought it was a rock, right?
a rock. Yeah.
And the reason it landed in federal court is because Cherokee, it was Indian country, and she was a Cherokee Nation member. That's why it landed in federal court.
Wow. I mean, you've really covered the gamut from uh, the whole spectrum, it seems like, Juan. And it's just super impressive, number one. Number two, God, it must keep you busy. I mean, 100%.
It keeps the monotony away. I don't. I do a lot of work here in Harris County, but I get to move around across Texas, and I get to move around across the country, and that does away with going to one courthouse every single day and handling a specific amount of cases or a specific type of cases. So yeah, it's like I said, I would. There's nothing else in the world that I'd rather be doing.
Well, why do something different when you're great at it?
Well, I appreciate that.
What best defines Juan L. Jr.?
Well, so so because I was born. When I tell people I was born in Roma in Starr County,
Mhm.
uh, and they say, okay, Starr County, or this specific town, Roma, it's called Little Columbia.
Mhm.
Significant drugs come through that little town, right? And that's all there is to do there, right? Everybody that is not everybody, but the majority of the people that were born there and live there, they've been involved in some kind of uh, drug transactions or drug activity, right? So when I tell people that I'm from there, right, and then they know that they realize obviously that I'm a lawyer, they're like, "Oh, you're from Roma and you're a lawyer, right?" Right, and so what that does for me, it's done it my entire career. I practice with a chip on my shoulder, right?
Mhm.
Not only do I say, "Yes, I'm from Roma. Yes, I'm a lawyer," but I am going, "Watch this. Watch how I'm gonna handle this. Watch how I'm gonna handle this case. I'm gonna be extremely aggressive, and I'm gonna get the result, that is deemed necessary in each and every case, whether it's a criminal case or a personal injury case." So that's what defines me, right? Defines me is I'm a small town. I call myself a poor altar boy from a small town, right? Um, but because of that, I practice with a chip on my shoulder, right? I'm not supposed to be here, according to the statistics. I'm not supposed to be a lawyer. I'm not supposed to be free. I'm supposed to probably be in jail for drug activity or whatnot. I've taken the approach that I am going to practice with a chip on my shoulder. I mean, I even go further than that, right? I've been to some small towns. I've been in small little towns in Mississippi, small little towns practicing law in Georgia, in Tennessee, and what I do when I'm going to little places like that I know I'm not appreciated, if you will. I have a specific brand of ties that I wear. It's a Mexican brand. So when I go to a small place like that, I put on my Mexican tie or Mexican brand tie. That's kind of like my little shield, if you will. Knowing that I'm going into hostile territory, I said, I am a small Hispanic kid from a small Hispanic town, and this is my flag, if you will. So I do that. I wear those ties when I go into little small towns like that, where I know that I'm not going to be thought much of, if you will.
I love that. And you practice with a chip on your shoulder. However, that painting behind you, with heart, I'll say you practice with a chip on your shoulder, but with heart. I love that painting behind you.
I appreciate it. It's a local artist here in town. Uh, Magnolia Grown. Jesse he's a phenomenal artist. Is he It's very inspirational. What that means, what he has there is right. That's his heart right there, and that hole there is it's a symbol of people. You're trying to do some good. He's really great in the community, right? Because he's got a big heart. But that hole there is people that are trying to me down. They don't have your best interest. So I
Yeah,
love the meaning behind that painting, which is why I keep it in my office because
I
that
love it.
that is what we do every day.
It caught my eye immediately. So 20 years from now, after the verdicts have been forgotten and the headlines have faded, what do you hope your clients, your peers, even your opponents, what would you want them to say was your lasting legacy of you, Juan L. Guerra Jr.?
Well, I appreciate the question, and I'm gonna tell you a story to answer that question. When I was a very young lawyer,
Mhm.
I I was in federal court, and I was arguing for my client to get a bond, and I'm winning. I'm winning. I'm winning. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna get a bond, but I continue arguing and advocating for my clients, and another lawyer, Paul Looney, who's a really good friend of mine now. He's not only a friend, but he's a mentor. He comes over to me just gently and leans over and says, "Hey, stop it! You're winning, right?" So what I'm my legacy, what I want my legacy to be is that he always kept fighting. He always kept fighting. He was a fighter. He never gave up on any of the issues. He fought to the very, very end for people's rights and for people that can't that couldn't help themselves legally, right? So that's what I want my legacy to be. I have two daughters, a 17 and a 12-year-old. I want them to know that their dad well fought for people that were not in a position to fight for themselves.
Amen, brother. I love that. We commend you for that, not just today, but every day. Juan, I think that's a great place for us to leave it for today. I
Perfect.
want
Thank
to
you so much.
thank you immensely and genuinely for taking time out of your busy day and schedule to spend it with us and educate us. Can you tell people if they ever find themselves in a very unfortunate situation in all of these areas of law, personal injury, criminal defense, even federal cases, how can they reach you?
I'm not difficult to find. We have a great social media team here. Alejandra's here with us today.
Mhm.
Um, they can find us on our website, jlglawoffice.com. Our Our office number is 713-489-3869. My cell phone number is 832-655-8850. All my clients have it. Um, some of them overuse it, but that's okay with me. Yeah, we're not difficult to find. If you Google Juan L. Guerra Jr. attorney, we're right up front.
Ladies and gentlemen, Juan L. Guerra Jr. Juan, thank you so very much. If you just give me a few seconds, I'm going to say goodbye to the audience,
Sure,
and I'll be right back with you.
sure. Thank you.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, Juan L. Guerra Jr., Houston's finest, Harris County's finest. Folks, there's a lot of doom and gloom going on in the world today. You see it everywhere. TV, out in the streets, social media. Do yourselves a favor. Get out there and love somebody today. I love y'all. I will forever. And I'll see y'all up the road. Bye.